Just as we're all starting to feel like we couldn't possibly take another thing on our already full plates, tax season has arrived. Thankfully, Susan Watkin, accountant and spokesperson for TurboTax, is here today. Susan has been an accounting professional for over 20 years and is passionate about keeping hardworking Canadians educated on all things to do with taxes. She joins me today to share what we should be looking out for as we file this year and how to get the most out of our returns. Welcome back to What She Said, Susan.
Hi, Candace. Thanks again. Nice to see you again.
You too. We were talking just before we started this interview. Say the last time we saw each other, you were my last interview before we went into lockdown. So don't blame me for that lockdown.
Well, it was a good way to end this. It was a good way to end the interview season then in 2020. So, but it's nice to definitely be back with you again this year.
Yeah. So you listen, I was reading this interesting little article and it said that, when the income tax first came out, it was 4,000 words long in 1917. Now it's over 1.1 million words. And to put that into perspective, it's the equivalent of 7 Harry Potter novels. It seems very complicated.
It does. It's best to be taken in little bits and bites then, and don't try to read the whole epic in one shot, I would say, for sure.
So for 2022, has it become even more complicated? What should we be looking out for this year?
Well, I'm going to say it's not become more complicated necessarily, but as usual, every year things change in our own lives, right? So it's really what's going on with us that we have to look at to see, well, what's changed in my life that could impact me on my taxes? So when the number one thing is marital status change, right? So did we get married, divorced, common law, have a child, things like that? Because all of these things could impact a benefit that we were currently eligible for, one that we might not be eligible for anymore. We have lots of varying degrees. There's certain tax credits. Maybe I can now claim a spouse amount, things like that. Did I turn 65? Did I go back to school or move? So I always like to tell people, I say, when the tax act changes, there'll be tweaks and things here and there, but it's really more look at what went on with you. And then now we have to figure out, okay, now what does that mean? And how is this going to impact my return? And can I get, more back or different changes, different benefits, et cetera?
Okay, let's talk about the work from home situation though,
Sure.
because there's still a lot of that happening. And so are there credits that people should be looking for in terms of work from home, even though they may not be self-employed?
Yes, no, absolutely. So, yeah, just like last year when we were doing our tax year for 2020, we had so many people working from home. We're all still well, we're both here. We're both at home, and so yeah, the federal government back in the fall they decided to take that temporary flat rate method for claiming those work from home expenses that we were given, and they've extended them into our tax year for 2021 and 2022, which is great. And they've actually increased it. So we went from a maximum of $400 to a maximum of $500. So this is for those that are working from home due to COVID. There is still some eligibility, but this means that by using that flat rate method for the deduction, you don't have to track any expenses or get any forms filled out. So if you're eligible, making sure that you're claiming that deduction is essential.
Okay, so the other thing I want to ask you is because I read this survey and you guys have cited it as well, that 60% of people started a side hustle.
Mhm.
That is, well, first off, that's a whole episode unto itself.
Yes.
60% of people starting a side hustle. But I can only imagine that may complicate things a little bit when you're filling out your taxes if you're going from, say, somebody who had a typical 9 to 5 to
Mhm.
still holding that 9 to 5, but now having some self-employment income. Is that true?
Well, I want to tell people don't get too concerned about it. It's not going to get too difficult, but yes, there are things you're going to have to do now. So you're still going to be using the same tax return that you've done always, but now you've got an extra form. So we're talking specifically, Candace, about those unincorporated businesses. So a side gig, you're just a sole prop doing maybe selling something on your own. So now you're going to be completing a new form on your tax return. It's called the T2125. And this is where you're going to report all that income and those expenses related specifically to that business. So it can be a little bit more complicated, but it's more so if you're prepared and you've got all that stuff together, it's really just going to be filling out another form to make sure you're covering all that income and making sure you're getting those expenses posted that can help you lower that income.
And does it change the deadline for filing at all? Because I know that for self-employed individuals, you have until June. Uh,
Absolutely.
but what if you're doing sort of both? You have still that 9 to 5, but the side hustle. Which
Well, you've
deadline do
got
you go with?
Well, if you are a sole proprietor and you're filing a T2125 statement of business or professional activities form with your tax return, you have until June to file that return. And so what that means is that the normal April 30th deadline actually only applies to you now if you have any taxes owing. So you don't have to file the return until the June deadline, but if you owe taxes, you got to make sure that's paid before the end of April.
Okay, good to know. That's actually that I felt like that was a question for me. So
Well,
thank
they're
you.
good.
Okay. So I do feel though that people are sort of wondering now, what's the best way to get through this year then to do it themselves,
Mhm.
or, with some help, or maybe just have somebody else do it all together. So what are the options that TurboTax can help people with?
Well, firstly, I like to say personally that no matter your tax situation, there is a tax solution for you at TurboTax, which is fantastic. And especially right now, they have what's going on right now. If for those aged 25 and under, and before the end of 2021, it was TurboTax is actually offering the ability for those individuals to file their returns using any version of TurboTax online, assist and review, or full service free of charge. So what this means is especially for those that are just coming out of school, just getting into the workforce, maybe starting to have taxes owing and are a little bit nervous, they can consider using assist and review or full service free and to make sure that they get that best return possible.
I just want to say that is a fabulous, fabulous offer. I mean,
It is.
especially for young adults who may have collected CERB and are unclear on where to put
Mhm.
that and figure out their tax situation that way. That is such a great service, and free is also, my favorite F word. So, but you also are offering a full service package this year. So, can you explain a little bit about that?
Well, the full service package is what this allows us to do. So as I was mentioning, so we've got assist and review, which is the one where if you want a little bit of support, but you can still do it yourself, you want to learn, you've got a tax expert that's going to be walking you through this, answering questions, helping you make sure you got those deductions and credits. But full service is the tax expert is going to take it on for you. So you're just providing your documents and you're walking away. And you're saying they are going to make sure that you get that tax return done. They're going to make sure all of those deductions and tax credits are searched for to get you that best return possible. And as we just said, yeah, under 25 at the end of last year, that's going to be free for you this year.
Yeah. And, I think too, for those of us not under 25, and maybe feeling a little overwhelmed with
Yeah.
everything that's going on, that service is great. I mean, personally, I'm going to be running with that full service this year. I don't even want to think about taxes.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to have somebody else. But I will say that last year I did it with the assist, live and assist.
Mhm.
And that was also really easy and intuitive. So no matter what route you go, I think like you said, there's a solution for
Yeah.
everybody with TurboTax this year. So Susan, thank you so much for joining me. It's always a delight having you. Where can people connect with you, and where can they find out more about the TurboTax services this year for 2022?
Well, thanks, Candace. It was lovely to see you again. It's been too long. And yeah, everybody, if you're looking for information on the TurboTax products, go to turbotax.ca. That's your best first place to stop. But you can also find them on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everything. It's under TurboTax Canada usually. And all the details on the products are there as well as information on the special offer right now for those 25 and under.
Thank you, Susan. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Same here, Candace. Take care. You have yourself a great day.